Howdy, y'all. Andy here, and welcome to another episode of the Talkalorian Live. Today we are joined by Austin and mine's good buddy Travis, as well as a Mandalorian themselves. How are we doing today, Austin and Grogu?
This is the way.
This is the way. So, guys, we've got a lot to talk about in this. We've got a lot to talk about with this episode. So naturally, I'm going to start with my first question. How's everyone doing today? Travis, how are you doing today, man?
Doing swell, doing swell.
All right, all right. And Austin, how are we doing today, man? How are you and Grogu? Talk to us.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Doing pretty good, especially from yesterday. I am doing fantastic.
Yeah, I know. We had some big things this week, not just with the episode, but we had the freaking Ahsoka trailer drop. Wow. I mean, we're not going to focus on that, right? If we have some time at the end, we might touch on it a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is a podcast about the Mandalorian. So let's talk Talkalorian, guys. Austin, why don't you lead us off? Actually, no. Travis, why don't you lead us off, man? What are your initial thoughts, feelings, and reactions after this episode? And for all those watching, we start by giving our non-spoiler thoughts and then kind of going more and more into spoilers as we go in the episode. But we'll warn you ahead of time. Travis, what are you thinking and feeling?
This is another great episode. I don't think I have anything bad to say about it. As we'll talk about later, I'm sure a lot of cameo appearances from outside the Star Wars world. But no, it was awesome. Got to see another new planet that I don't think I've ever seen before in any of the Star Wars movies that I've seen or any of the shows that I've watched. So that was pretty exciting. Another crazy installment of Din Djarin and Bo-Katan's crazy adventures. So I'm feeling great about it. It was a great episode. A lot of interesting things. We'll just leave it at that for now.
Agreed. Oh man, agreed. And we had one of our comments is from Sam H. Hey Sam, that's actually a student of mine. Sam sums it up perfectly. This was a fever dream of an episode. I know, Sam. I think that spider episode was a bit of a fever dream, but yeah. All joking aside, I agree, and we'll tear into that a little bit later. Austin, what are your thoughts, feelings, and reactions?
I think I'm with Travis. I really like this episode. It was just it felt good to continue more of the story with, as he just said, Bo and Din and kind of their adventures that they're going on, because to some degrees this season's kind of almost a little bit back to basics Mandalorian, where we just kind of get little one-off adventures and stuff leading us back to us getting to Mandalore again, I would assume. But
yeah, I think
weirdly enough,
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead. What were you saying, Austin?
Oh, you're good. Weirdly enough, this episode is like the lowest rated of the whole season, and I'm
really,
yeah, it only had like a 64 or something compared to the other episodes. They all had I want to say 80s, most of them.
Huh.
But that's where I disagree. I had a fun time with this episode. Yes, the cast in here is really what made this not one of my favorite episodes, but easily one of my favorites of this season thus far.
I mean, so I'm gonna go ahead and say, wow, that's surprising. I feel like I might disagree with this being really people say this episode's mid. I mean, I really like the episode. I think it's one of my favorite episodes of the season, but I guess as a first thought, that's kind of troubling, because season 3 might be the weakest episode of The Mandalorian so far. I mean, I hate to say that, but kind of looking back on our past reactions over the past weeks, it feels like we've been very hesitant to give any episode above a 7.5. You know what I mean? So it's starting to feel like with that audience reception, then we might be kind of headed towards this being the weakest episode of The Mandalorian. I know that's kind of a departure from talking about this episode, but what are your thoughts, guys?
it's the Frog Lady episode, man. I know it's an easy jab to take, but I still think out of the whole series, that's the weakest. You're me. If I had to like rank all the episodes, this would probably be like mid for me. It'd be like because it did things good, like especially the ending. It really kind of sets up, I think, where the whole rest of the season's going to go. But it was just honestly to me, I looked at it as like a fun little like buddy cop adventure to a degree.
Yeah. Man, I was thinking the same thing. I like how we've seen the dynamic grow and change between Bo and Din to them both like clearly being on even footing. Like they both view each other with like high enough regard to work together and to coordinate very well together. It's a nice change of pace from what we saw at like when Bo was first introduced in The Mandalorian, where she was very high and mighty, right? Because she's Mandalorian royalty versus Din, who's for all intents and purposes a cult fanatic to her.
Yeah.
at the start of the series. Travis, what's going on? You look like you might have a thought or two.
I go back to the last time that I was on podcast. I think it was like right before the beginning of the season. And my first thought was, to have I almost thought there was going to be a clash of some sort. And maybe there will be later down the road. I don't, between Bo and Din, and all of a sudden now to see them being almost as equals, is totally different thought than what I had going into this season. So I'm definitely keeping an open mind with that because I 100% thought that we were going to have some sort of clash over power or something.
Yes.
And they even traded something this episode that I didn't think was ever going to happen. So, I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that was even almost a little bit more surprising on my end.
Agreed. That this episode, I don't know why it's rated so poorly. I feel like it had some interesting twists and turns from start to finish. I'll say like mainly at the start and the end of the episode, I felt like there were some huge, interesting little dynamics. But yeah, let's kind of tear into mild spoiler territory, I suppose, unless anyone has some last non-spoiler points that you want to discuss.
I don't have nothing.
I mean, let's talk about this one. I got an interesting one. Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode. And for those who don't know, she's directed 2 other episodes of The Mandalorian, and she's slated to be the showrunner on Star Wars Skeleton Crew, or at least a director. I guess
one of the directors. Yeah.
Okay, she's one of the directors. So, how do we feel about her kind of directorial work in The Mandalorian so far? Since she's like directed 3 episodes, and I don't think she's had any misses so far.
I think she has potential. Like honestly, just the way she directs these episodes, I could see her maybe down the line either getting her own show or maybe even getting a movie at some point. But I really like her directing. I think she's easily one of my favorite directors of the show so far.
Yeah, Travis, what about you?
I guess I really haven't paid too much attention to the different directors. I guess I didn't really know they were bouncing back and forth. But I mean, to bounce off what Austin's saying, at least this episode for sure, now that I know that she directed it, she did a fantastic job, in my personal opinion, and I'd be excited to see where she goes with things, especially with the, announcements that we had this yesterday, and if she's going to be a pretty major part in that new show, be excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because I want to circle back around to that, Travis. But first, I want to say that I was like doing some homework here on the side, and it looks like she's directed 3 episodes, right? Wikipedia. Sorry, I'm using Wikipedia, but we've got Chapter 4, The Sanctuary, in episode 1 in season 1, which I think is where we get introduced to Cara Dune, right?
Yep.
And then we've got Chapter 11 in season 2, which is where we get Bo-Katan introduced into the Mandalorian canon. Is that right, Austin? Sorry, you're my like Star Wars fact checker.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one she did when we met Bo and Custer Reeves.
Yes.
And the other guy whose name I can't ever remember.
Yep, because it's after the Frog Lady episode. So
Yep.
that's where we get Bo-Katan introduced. And then this episode is the third episode directed by Dallas Howard. And I was doing some homework because I was looking it up because none of her episodes have like an 80%, have below an 80% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes, or at least at this time. So I think that gives me a lot of hope in her Skeleton Crew debut. But she also, she also had an episode of Black Mirror that was highly rated. So I still think that Bryce Dallas Howard has no misses in terms of Mandalorian episodes.
I mean, it's hard for her to probably, direct anything bad since her dad is Ron Howard.
Yeah, but that's also like putting a lot of pressure on her from like a movie perspective, because you have David Cronenberg, guy who did like The Fly and Videodrome and all that, and then his son Brandon Cronenberg's doing movies too. But I don't know, because I think she's doing well. I'm just curious if this is going to continue if she directs like episodes and what we're presumably going to get at season 4.
Yep, I would definitely agree with you there.
But that's enough talking about Travis. Can we circle back around to your point earlier? You were talking. What were you talking about, man? You brought up a point, I think, about. Actually, I'll go ahead and say we'll start to head into mild spoiler territory, because I feel like you're gonna like tie back into this heavily. So for everyone watching, we are going to start with mild spoilers. You have been warned in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. All right, so guys, start of the episode, we immediately, like right out of the gate, get introduced to more Mandalorians, right? So this is kind of interesting because obviously Bo-Katan was going to meet the rest of her like fleet, right? Her former allies. But now we like get direct contact with Mandalorians. Do we feel like this could potentially tie into what we saw at the end of the last episode?
Maybe. I'll say maybe for right now.
Because I thought it was interesting that like one of the first things they say, right, is that they are loyal. It just depends on the price. We're loyal if you pay us. So now I'm concerned if that like alludes to their involvement in Moff Gideon's release, which was at the end of last episode, right? Since they're clearly working as like privateers, even if they're working for Jack Black and Lizzo's planet, it's like there might be some like I don't know, weird politics and nuance there.
I mean, I would definitely agree and maybe even assume that, those probably are the guys who have captured Moff Gideon. Because if they didn't, again, I don't know who else could have done it. We could even still go with your theory, Andy, about them remaking Death Troopers, but with them having like Beskar armor. So, I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you.
Well, and like when we look at like Din's, when we look at the Coven, well, I am forgetting their name. Like I'm forgetting Din's like sex name again. I can't believe I had it last week and I'm forgetting it again. The clan, you know what? Never mind. Either way, Din's clan, right? It's clear that they're all kind of hodgepodge. They don't have like access to the same level of like Mandalorian arm, like Beskar, that the rest of these Mandalorians have, right? So it seems to me that there's either some other Mandalorian force out there, or there might be, or I don't know, perhaps Bo-Katan's fleet was up to something since the last time we saw them. Travis, do you think this has any like bearing? Austin, you think this holds any water, or we still kind of holding on that Death Trooper theory?
That's honestly where my mind went. Like as soon as they played that scene, and they've got, I believe is it Blue, the pilot? Is that his name? He was inspecting the ruins, I guess, of that transport ship. And
yes, yeah.
As soon as he mentioned that there was
right. As soon as they mentioned it,
immediately what I thought, because known they went. Oh, I think I lost some of your audio. What did you say?
No, you're good. I was just going to kind of agree with you that as soon as like it's made known that that Beskar is present at the site of Moff Gideon's breakout, it kind of automatically brings a couple parties to my mind. but I don't know.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah, and
know.
my mind went automatically to that Bo-Katan's, ex-fleet, if we want to call it that. Just because I think going in to this episode, and maybe I'm overlapping the two in my mind because I watched them both back to back yesterday.
Mhm.
That I think going into this episode, we already knew they were borderline mercenaries already.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind went immediately as soon as it was made known that there was that trace of Beskar on that transport ship. So I would agree.
Yeah.
I think that at least what you're saying at least treads water at least a little bit. That's where my mind went almost immediately.
Yeah, I feel like there's been some things we've seen pay off in like interesting ways this season, and I'll go into that as we go along a little bit as well. But I feel like that line was very intentional, or I felt like it was very intentional that they talk about them being mercenaries, that they're being paid and they're very good at what they do. I feel like I don't know, I can't help but feel like that was foreboding, like that was foreshadowing something.
Well, I mean, even too when they first pop up on the screen and we go into their ship, like there's this like very dark, almost ominous music surrounding them that whole time.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something going on with this clan or this group of
Mhm.
Mandalorians for sure.
I thought it was interesting though that they didn't like blow up Squid Face. Man, that feels wrong to say. That feels like a slur. Either way,
The race is called a Quarren.
okay, thank you. Yes, that's a lot better. So we have this Quarren on the ship with in a love affair with the Calamar or whatnot, right? And I think it's interesting that Woves didn't just blow him up right then and there. Like he clearly had a mission and he set out to do it. So that also feels interesting to me because it's like he knows how to separate. I know he knows how to do jobs to the T. So I feel like that's part of why I'm like leaning towards that theory. I guess let's also kind of go into the what everyone's talking about with this episode is Bo-Katan and Mando enter the planet, and we're almost immediately greeted by Jack Black and Lizzo.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, how are we feeling about that? That's
I'll be honest, man. I liked their characters. They were just like a fun, weird little couple that you never thought you could see being together, and not even that, just working as well together as they do. Because like I took so many blinks and so many looks, like staring at Jack Black. I'm like, no, no. And then we got closer. I'm like, oh, it is. And like as we talked about a little bit earlier, like I didn't know who the wife was because I don't know who Lizzo is. I don't listen to
actually
her music.
I want to talk about this before. Oh, gosh. Okay, so before the episode started, and we were like kind of in the private chat, we were or the green room, whatever you want to call it. We were talking about how I don't think either of y'all know who Lizzo was. I mean, I did, because I like Juice, that song of hers. But like Travis, can you tell us the one reference the one guy you knew from this episode and why? Because that was wild.
Yeah. So let me stop for a second. So I know who Lizzo is. I just had no idea. I've never seen her in person. So like
Okay.
I know of her. We'll put it that way. All right.
Yeah,
Because I
gotcha.
know I'm sure
Same
my
here.
wife's watching. She'll probably correct me on that. So I know who Lizzo is. Just never seen her in person. But anyway, so the one cameo that I saw stood out almost immediately, and I don't know what her actual name is. Um, I know her as Tawny from Hawaii Five-O. She was one of the. Um, I can't think of the guy's name. The leader of the fleet. Drawing a
Oh yeah,
blank.
Woves.
Yeah, one of Wove's Mandalorians. I pull, pulled her out of the hat almost immediately. But I guess to Austin's point too, I kept saying no. That's not. That's no way. That's Jack Black. Like I kept saying no, and then I heard his voice, and I was like, really? Did we go there right now? And I didn't know how I felt about it until we got farther and farther and farther. I'm like, this actually works okay. Like I'm not mad about it anymore. So
I
yeah,
mean,
that I was like, how many cameo appearances are we going to throw in one episode of Mandalorian? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, this season we've had a lot of interesting cameo episodes because cameos because we had Tim Meadows. We had Tim Meadows in the last episode of The Mandalorian, and he was also working for the Republic. And I was saying how it feels like they're purposefully using comedic actors almost to like highlight that the Republic is just kind of comical or satirical. I don't know if that's by intention or something that I'm like picking up on, because Tim Meadows has been in movies like Pop Star, right? And if y'all haven't seen Pop Star, it's pretty much if you know who the Lonely Island is, the guys who sing "I'm on a Boat" and Jack Sparrow. That Pop Star is pretty much a Andy Samberg The Lonely Island movie, and Tim Meadows is in it, but he's very funny. So seeing him on in a position of power with the High Republic, and then seeing Jack Black as kind of like a retainer or whatever you want to call it for the High Republic, for the New Republic, makes it feel almost like they're lampooning the New Republic, or like kind of highlight kind of the slight elements of corruption or just self-importance intrinsic to the New Republic.
Well, even him too, being like a former Imperial leader, like you look at Jack Black and you're like, him? Like no offense to the guy, but like him?
Okay, can we
a
talk
former Imperial leader, governor, whatever the heck he was? Like,
okay, actually,
what?
I want to talk about that, like how in episode 3, where we see Elia Kane and Dr. Pershing again. Can we talk about how much of the short end of the stick Dr. Pershing got? He literally gets like mind flayed, and then as a former member of the Empire, he gets mind flayed, and then Jack Black is like living it up and married to like a princess as like a former member of the Empire. That feels one-sided. That feels absolutely one-sided to me. Like someone got the raw end of the deal there, is all I'm saying.
It just kind of reminds me of like an owner just looking at their dog and going, bad. That's their way of making him bad, is no, you mind flayed. No, bye.
Oh, but
I also think it's comical who the Doctor made friends with, though, and then you see her appear in this episode again too. Or no, that was last episode, right?
Yeah,
yes,
with Navarro. Yeah. So, and almost like to circle back to that, almost to see like her almost smirk, when she said, well, they're not part of the New Republic, so you should make them learn their lesson, and then have them join the New Republic. Just seeing that friend of the Doctor, that he made friends with during that episode. I think that was episode 3, and then her be the one that just mind fillets him is kind of comical to me.
I agree. I still hate her character, which is for me good. I think it's like hard to discern sometimes whether you hate the character or whether you hate them as a villain. You know what I mean? Like, are they a bad character or are they a good villain? I think she's a good. I'm going to say a good antagonist, actually, because I don't know if she's actively a villain, right? I don't know if she's actively doing things for evil purposes or to just protect herself. But I feel like Elia, that woman we had in the last episode, in episode 3, I feel like she's taking antagonistic actions, but it's still kind of too early for me to say whether or not she's doing that for self-protection, self-preservation, or because she's like, I don't know, still working with Moff Gideon or something like that.
I guess we never really asked you at all, though, Travis. I guess as a whole so far for this season, I guess what's kind of your thoughts of the season so far?
Thank you.
I definitely like where the season is going. Like I said before, I had different expectations, not really expectations. Like I had different thoughts and opinions going into this season, and this season has totally changed the way that I was the way I viewed last season, the way I viewed season 1. I was anticipating some sort of, I don't know if you want to, not really political battle, but like just a battle of supremacy, really, between Bo-Katan and Din, and now we're on the even playing field, and he's basically during this episode anyway, at least it felt like that, basically green-lighted her, saying, "You know what? You are now more powerful than I am because I'm
Well, wait,
giving
wait,
you
wait.
something that's
But wait,
rightfully
wait, wait, wait.
yours."
Oh, okay,
Yep,
okay.
I'm not saying it.
Whew.
Spoiler free at this point. You know,
Okay.
uh,
Well, mine
so
spoilers. It's like an onion. It has layers.
yes, exactly. Uh, so yeah, no, I definitely like where the season's going. This is probably my most. I really enjoyed last season, but I think this is becoming one of my favorite seasons. I still have mixed feelings about season one, but I truly enjoyed season two, and I truly am enjoying season three right now.
Okay. I
That's interesting. I'm the opposite. I truly think season one is the best season because I just loved how self-contained it was. It wasn't in like the huge grand scope of what we know of the Star Wars universe. And I mean, season two was still like that, but it kind of started bringing us more into things. You know, when we got Bo-Katan, when we got Boba Fett, when we got Luke, Ahsoka, all them people. And season three, I mean, I've liked. I still have positive feelings for each episode of this season, but I definitely think it's the weakest season so far. But again, that's just my personal feelings. I still love the first two seasons, but I just feel season one is like peak top tier Mandalorian. Good job, Dan. Proud of you.
I agree with I agree with that. I think there's this thing like I have where I think that because the Mandalorian has become the backbone or has like over time grown more and more to becoming the backbone of the current Star Wars universe. I feel like because of that, it's being burdened with all these, like with all of the like higher and higher stakes each season, and because of that, you're having more and more lore introduced. You're having more and more. Like we had a major canon drop, like a major name drop in this episode towards the end that I want to talk about, and I'm sure y'all caught it as well, but if not, we'll refresh in a bit. But either way, I agree with what you're saying, Austin and Travis. Actually, I think that season one was so peak because even as a non Star Wars fanatic, you could watch it. It was kind of like its own thing. It was self-contained. Even season two was a little bit more self-contained, where you weren't looking for every cameo. And now season three seems like you have to be, we've talked about this a lot, you have to be like really caught up on a lot of stuff to fully appreciate it. It's kind of getting the MCU treatment.
To some degrees, yes, I would definitely say that because to get caught up where we are, yeah, you have to watch those specific episodes of Clone Wars and specific episodes of Rebels.
Yeah. I know Travis, I think we talked last time. Are you caught up on all the Rebels and Clone Wars, or are you like me and it's like here and there?
I tried to watch it. I could not get into. I think it was. I think it was the Clone Wars, and then there was the other one that came after that was a continuation of the Clone Wars. I can't. Was it Bad Batch? Does that sound
Yeah,
Oh,
right?
yep, the Bad
Bad
Batch.
Batch. Yep, picks up right where
Yeah,
Clone Wars left up.
yeah. So I tried getting into both those. I can't. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping if I try to sit down and watch it, when I'm not as busy, and hopefully just let it sink in, maybe I'll be able to, I'll like it because that's what happened to me when I first started watching The Mandalorian the very first season. That's why I have mixed feelings about it because I had to watch it twice before I actually was able to appreciate what I was watching. And I don't know if it was just because it was different than what we're used to. Um, because before The Mandalorian, I had not really watched an episodic Star Wars series, outside of the
Okay.
movies. So I think it was different to try to, I guess, to kind of be be okay with that, I guess, in terms. But yeah, I don't know. I for whatever reason I just could not get into the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. I'm hoping, like, if I give it time, that I'll be able to understand what's going on and give it the shot that it's worth. Because you know, I feel like it could be something great. Especially if they continue it on with Bad Batch and I think Austin's talked highly of Bad Batch before. If I'm not incorrect on that. So I just got to give it time, I think, and let it really sink in and go with that for now.
I respect that.
Well, with like Clone Wars, I was the same way. Like it took quite a bit for me to get through the first season for sure. Because like the first season, I could willingly say, even too, if you watch the best way to start it is watch Phantom Menace and then watch Attack of the Clones, just so you kind of know that little bit of story.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have to go and watch Clone Wars, the movie, because there's actually a Clone Wars movie, which I'll just say this: animation is not very great. It's like
Oh yeah.
early stages of before it gets fantastic, like it is currently in the Bad Batch. And then, but it's I will just warn you, if either one of you actually start and watch the show like that, Ahsoka is very unbearable for the movie and most of the first season, but then after that, she starts to grow more as a character, and you'll see that's why she's such a huge fan favorite.
Well, that brings me to another point. Like when I was talking about Elia Kane earlier, what I was saying was like, is it a case of bad character and bad writing, or is it a case of like good character and good writing? Just because of that, you don't enjoy their attributes or their personality. Like as an example, right? Like in God of War, the new God of War series, people say they can't stand Atreus, even though it's like Atreus is a teenage boy. He's kind of supposed to feel unbearable or very like, you know what I mean? Is like kind of very self-important, kind of growing up to like find his own like identity. Like that's an example of a good character who's like got some unbearable nuances because he's a kid. He's supposed to feel like that. Is
He's a
that like
lot
what?
more he's more unbearable to me personally in the 2018 game than he is in Ragnarok. He's more tolerable in Ragnarok.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And he's still a great and beautifully written character. I just like, I use that as a parallel to like Ahsoka, like in early Clone Wars. Would you say she's kind of like that or just like bad writing?
I think it's just more bad writing because
Okay.
like Ashley Eckstein, you know, she's doing what she's paid to do. Like that's
Mm,
the biggest thing, and obviously that's just a huge topic nowadays with actors and actresses that they get bullied because of what they're doing their job. I mean,
right.
not that it ties into Star Wars. Obviously, there's plenty of examples we've used for Star Wars. Daisy Ridley, Kelly Marie Tran, Ahmed Best. I mean, those are all the big examples there. But like right now with the new Resident Evil 4 game that just dropped here a couple weeks ago, the voice
Oh,
actress for the character Ada Wong. If you guys don't know who Ada Wong is,
yeah.
it's way too difficult to explain to you guys, and it's Resident Evil, so that's another topic for another day. But she's very like stale. She doesn't have a lot of emotion. She doesn't have a lot of like charisma like the previous actress did in the Resident Evil 2 remake. So she got bullied. She left social media, so she's completely off of social media now. But the way you keep talking about Elia Kane, I compare her to a character like Negan from The Walking Dead. Like
Okay.
he's that
Interesting.
he's that character you love to hate because the writing is so good. The way that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is portraying the character, like you just hate him, but there's just still something about him. You're like, oh, man, this guy is just awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's Elia Kane for me. Like you're saying, I like not necessarily like it's not even that I like love to hate her. It's just like I'm wanting to keep an eye on her because she is like I need to know what the heck she's up to because she gives me the ick. I think is what kids like to say. Is
The
it's
ick.
like the ick. Well, ick is kind of like for dating and relationships, but like like when I say the ick, it's like something is off here with her character, and I
Oh,
can't I
oh,
can't
oh,
tell what.
oh.
But that to your point, actually, you know what I'll say? I actually enjoy watching her character because it feels like there's something going on bigger than just what she comes off as. I do like that. So I think the Negan comparison is good.
It's the only thing I ever think of when people bring up like a character who like they hate, but there's just that like curiosity of like what they're doing and where they're gonna go.
Yes. Okay, I guess that brings me to. I guess let's kind of fast forward. I've hung a lot out, camped a lot out on that Jack Black and Lizzo, and then kind of going into like kind of a little Ahsoka and character. I think what I liked, speaking of like Jack Black's like kind of comedy, I liked Din's jokes in this episode. I felt like he had a couple quips that like actually worked in this episode. I'm trying to remember what, but I was watching it and he had some like quips that I liked versus like episode one where he's like that. Now that's what I call using your head. And I said like I was like afraid of him becoming more jokey. But I feel like he had some good dry comedy in this episode that worked. Not sure if y'all picked up or even had any opinions. I'm just stating mine on that.
I guess I don't
I
even
think-
really remember what the joke was, in all honesty.
Well, there was one part that I thought was kind of not really comical, but I liked it. Was when they were talking about the battle droids, and he looks at Bo-Katan and says, "You had me at battle droids."
That's what it was. Yep, that's what it was.
Oh yeah. That I want to get into that after we're done with this little topic of like the droids and stuff. So
Well, we can talk about that. Actually, that kind of circles into kind of like the main part of the episode, right? Or main like one of the main subplots of the episode is them hunting down these droids. I like that they still establish that Din has some issues with droids. I like that comes to light in this episode, and it's not just swept under the rug or played up for comedic effect. What were you going to say, Austin? I keep wanting to say SPC. What do you want to say, Austin?
So, I mean, I've talked about it a handful of times with the whole show. Something I thought they've done very well is like how they center a specific story around like a group of like either like a race or a group of people who we don't really know a lot about. Like when we season 2 and even part of season 1 when we had the Tuscans, how they talk through sign language and they trade, they talk to each other still like that. And I don't know why season 2 is escaping me, but I know they did that again in season 2. But I like how essentially like they look at droids in this episode as their own race, their own kind of society, basically. Like there's literally a droid bar where the second Bo and Din walk in, all the droids turn and look at them, and they're like, "I don't think they see many of us like us here."
Yeah,
I thought they did that really good. I liked all the droids we got in the background because I'll still say it. I think that's one of the things that Disney's portion of Lucasfilm has done very well is the droids. Like again, BB-8. I think BB-8's now my new favorite droid. K2SO, BBO from Andor, and Chopper from Rebels. I feel like another droid is escaping me for whatever reason, but
no, I think that's something I liked about this episode is going into the droid bit of it. I like that we had like literally legitimately had like a decent number of droid interactions in this episode. It like you said, it gave them more flavor and personality than we usually get in some of the standalone episodes and the movies, right?
it weirdly made them a little more human.
Yes. Oh, that goes into actually, Travis. What are your thoughts on kind of the droid interactions we have in this episode?
I would second what I think was what Austin said. We had a ton more droid interaction than I think that we've had in a long time. I think that the episode maybe that had the most outside of this was, the episode where
Yeah, I think Travis. I think the point you're going for maybe was I'm trying to think.
Mando
Maybe
kind of scope planet.
yeah. I think to that point, I think the most interaction we get is Mando and IG-11, right? Because it is like the most droid interaction we get, but not a lot of like droid to droid interaction.
Yeah, I would say so for sure in regards to that because I mean, yeah, like you said, like I'm kind of glad they kind of like reminded us that Din still, especially the battle droids, because season one, kind of like I was talking with Travis before you hopped in to the studio earlier, but the first season, it's battle droids that are attacking, Din's town or wherever he lives and kills his parents and everything. So
Yes.
these kind of droids, I understand why he still has like that hate for the battle droids and the separatists and all that, where like obviously he's a lot better with IG-11 with R5 and the other couple of droids that he's kind of interacted with throughout the series, but it makes sense he's still this way with especially the super battle droids, because I've loved all the memes about with him trying to find the specific droid and he keeps kicking them all in the legs and stuff.
Dude, that actually, I don't know if y'all are going to think of the same comparison, but two vibes I got from this episode. Like two vibes I got this. I felt like some Wall-E vibes and some I Am Robot vibes. Like it felt like have y'all seen an I Am Robot?
iRobot, you mean? Will Smith?
I'm thinking I Am Legend. Yes, iRobot. iRobot, not I Am Legend. But
I Am Legend's a fantastic movie, by the way.
But both great
Yes,
Will
it
Smith
is.
movies. But yeah, I got iRobot vibes, right? Like I felt like Din was Will Smith in iRobot, and then I felt like the Wall-E vibes where they mention that the guys on this planet on Plazir 15 are too lazy to do work for themselves, so they need droids.
iRobot, I can see iRobot in regards to Wall-E. I haven't seen Wall-E, unfortunately. It's on my watch list.
Okay. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of something to like say without spoiling. All I'll say is that like humans grow very dependent on robots. In Wall-E, like without spoiling anything, humans grow very dependent on robots, and those are the vibes I got in this episode. Were that, and then the iRobot vibes of Din being very untrusting of droids. But yeah, when he's like slapping around the super battle droids, it's like, okay, he's got nothing to lose, and then he gets dome rocked.
I like, but I hate that they took the voice actor from Clone Wars and used that as the battle droid voice, because
really,
I don't know what it is, man, but like the battle droid sounds from the prequels, I loved them.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be because of the this is so bad to say on stream, but I have to say it now. Have you guys seen any of like the Miley Cyrus reels and stuff that have been on Instagram?
Whoa, no. I have.
You have. Okay.
I have.
Okay, so
I'm just saying I know where this is going. Oh my god.
Well, yeah, there's like her standing there and she's like, the journey is whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then it switches to a battle droid from episode 1. He's talking like that. I can't remember exactly what he says. He's like, we are searching these underwater cities for these refugees. Because I've shared so many of them. There's one where it's still her, but it's Reagan from The Exorcist. She's like, it's a great day for an exorcism.
I've seen both of those. As soon as you said Miley Cyrus, I was like, oh no.
I found a fantastic one the other day, and then we'll get back to the Mandalorian. But it's again that, and it's Beetlejuice when he's like looking around. He's like, "Hope you like Italian." Where'd you go? Hey, where'd you go? Like, oh, it's
wild.
So bad. Anyway, back to the Mandalorian. Yeah, battle droids, very mixed on the voice acting, but I loved seeing the battle droids again, because that whole sequence with them looking for the specific battle droid, and when they actually find him and take him down, so many prequel vibes. I loved it so much.
It also goes into Travis. You put it a great way. We get a lot of buddy cop vibes in this episode, and I think it was pretty clear who was good cop and who was bad cop in this episode, if we're talking about buddy cop dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Austin brought up that point, but either
Oh,
way,
my
like
bad. Yeah.
I definitely feel like Bo-Katan was more the good cop, and Dan was just like, "We're gonna do it my way," and not even really give her a chance to do anything. And it was just that part was hilarious. That was grand.
We also get to see like underlings again underneath the city, and we get to. I guess I mean it makes sense in context, but it's also kind of funny when Din says, "I have spoken."
Oh, and
That
the
made me
Ugnaught scene.
so
Yeah.
that made me so happy, but so sad. I was when he says
Really?
when he brings up Queel's name, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh man. Oh, that brought me right back to season
Shoot.
1, and my heart broke all over again, man.
Oh,
Oh.
gosh, I forgot it. Wow, I legitimately overlooked that. I need to rewatch season 1. That yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot.
I have spoken.
Rip Quill.
You're gonna go up here with your buddy because now we have to talk about you a little bit.
Dude, I think I also like that interaction too because it shows how much like Mando has grown as a character, right? In terms of like he is not just he's not that much of a lone wolf anymore. Everything that these episodes have like given him have like built up into his character interactions, and I don't know, man. I thought that was such a nice little thing to add.
Yeah, he's definitely grown a lot since the very first episode of this show. One thing we kind of already went past it, but I kind of want to bring it up because it's actually like the biggest thing that my wife was talking about the whole time we were watching the episode. The relationship between Lizzo's character and Grogu.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's when they're just sitting at the table and can I hold the baby? Oh no, he doesn't like strangers. And then she just holds up that little fish thing, and he's doing his jumps, doing his flips into people's laps and stuff, and he's just like, really, you did that? Like he helped her cheat while she was playing that game. He was using the Force. That is bullcrap. I'm calling it right now. That is bullcrap.
Dude, I didn't even think of.
I
I didn't
wasn't the
even
only one
think
that
about
saw
that.
that. Okay, good.
Yeah. Bad
Once,
baby.
once again, like things like that, or like things like that. There's a lot of that goes back into like how there are a lot of little things in this episode that really made me love it. Which that stuff like that is like okay, now he is so good with he's like so skilled with the Force that he can do very little slight trick of hand things like that, like what we see in the prequels almost. You know what I mean? I mean, he's not doing Jedi mind tricks or anything like that, but he's doing like a lot more fine motor skill Force maneuvers. I like it.
It did bring me back to that episode too, where he's facing off against Ugnaught when they're like doing the little challenge, and he's getting hit with the paintballs and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I know you can do these. Like, you have something that they don't know about, and then he uses the Force. And that just brought me right back to that. But I'm like, really?
Still counts.
It's I guess.
Man. So I think the whole vibe there also made me feel like this was pseudo like dystopian light, like pseudo dystopian, just because of like how laid back everyone was. But I thought that's where they were going, but it seems like no, it's legitimately just a good society. That's kind of a non sequitur. That's kind of like off the beaten path, I know, but I wanted to bring that up because I just remembered that was something I was going to say. Is that it felt like a legit utopia, and I thought it was going to be the opposite.
I weirdly like just the whole like layout and the look of this place. I don't know if it was intentional, and I guess I don't even know if you guys really caught it, but I kind of felt almost like we were at Disneyland in some weird way.
Huh. Oh, that is interesting. I did not think of that, but I can see it, right? Because it's meant to feel. I would not be surprised if like the directors or like the designers come out and be like, "Yeah, we like wanted to make it feel fun or whimsical or something like that." But that is a really interesting comparison.
Because maybe I'll have to look it up here. But yeah, you guys.
Yeah, I thought that was I think that's a really good comparison. I want to go into like kind of like one of the last parts of the episode, unless y'all can think of anything else kind of about these droid interactions, about like kind of the overall like character interactions of the episode. One of the last things I want to go into is we had a huge name drop at the end, right? Like when the engineer, the guy who's like running all the, who's like monitoring all the droids, when he says he's a separatist and that he brings up Count Dooku, that was massive.
I'm really upset that I missed that. I don't know how I didn't catch that.
This thingy.
Yep. Oh yeah, the Epcot ball. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yep.
Okay, that's what it's called. Yeah, that's what like the outside of the planet reminded me of, or the town or whatever. So
Yep. Okay, now it's coming together.
anyway,
So do we? I know. I'm gonna tap you in Austin. Do we think there's any greater implications to him dropping Dooku and like stating he's like a separatist? I mean, that's
not really, because I mean the separatists, they all had their own vision of how the galaxy should be. It's just like the Empire, you know, they're the same way. They have their own specific way that the separatists were doing things. And actually, you know what? That is still the biggest name in this whole episode we have yet to talk about. That is the amazing and the legendary Doc Brown himself, Christopher Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is not who I thought he was going to be. I literally thought he was going to be maybe like a hidden Mandalorian, like a sage Mandalorian, or he was going to just be some old man who like just kind of almost like the Armorer, but
yep. Well, wasn't that
the Armorer?
Well, wasn't that kind of the joke? Weren't we kind of joking that Christopher Lloyd was going to be the Armorer or something like that? Like we had no idea. I thought we joked about like who we were joking last week about who he could potentially be, but this was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. We joked about that, but I think the big one was like he needed to play a character that had the name DeLorean.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, no, I think do we feel like this was a wasted cameo though? I know that sounds weird to say, but we had 3 cameos in this episode, or at least 3 major cameos. Do we feel like any of them were wasted? Like they could have been played up more?
Travis, you take this one.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Like I said at first, Jack Black, I was like, oh god, like what are we doing? I mean, did we really go here? And I'm okay with it now. Like I said, you know what? I think he did a fantastic job. I think Liz did a fantastic job. The last name you guys dropped, I have no idea who that is. I'm probably going to feel really bad about that, but I don't know who that is or which character he played. So now I'm trying to think who that would have been. So that one I can't really answer, unfortunately. But the other 2, I definitely think did a really good job. And then the random 4th one that I named off earlier, I imagine she'll be around if she's going to be part of that fleet. I imagine she'll be around for a while, or at least through the rest of the storyline with those characters. So, but I really hope that we get to come back to this planet again, and.
Wait. No, I think he was talking about Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, I know who Count Dooku is. I just don't know who Christopher Lloyd is.
Oh,
yeah, right.
Oh, he's Doc Brown in Back to the Future.
Yes, there you go. So,
please, Travis, tell me you have at least seen
Back to the Future.
Yeah, as if you haven't. I don't know. We
might
not be able to be friends anymore.
So, Travis, that was why that was a big deal. That cameo. So I was kind of asking if that was a wasted reference, or wasted cameo. But I don't think it was. I don't think any of these cameos have really been wasted, so to speak. I just get worried. I don't know. Sometimes I'm worried about these cameos being made. Oh, that was him. I didn't recognize him without any hair. It's really clicking now. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. Same here.
Yeah. This is him now. Yeah. This is what he's known for, is Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
So
gotcha. Yep. And I would not have known.
or the live action version of Rick from Rick and Morty.
So I think that actually does go back into like, I don't know if I would say these cameos are wasted, but like I am a little worried when cameos like this happen because it is like, is this going to be pertinent to the plot? Is it like really important that these actors play this character? Like I think Jack Black, Lizzo, and Tim Meadows were great because they had like different, like kind of different, like they had different energy, right? Like Jack Black and Lizzo were supposed to be very charismatic, lovey-dovey, goofy. Tim Meadows was supposed to be like a very underplayed comedic. You know what I mean? Is like where he's saying kind of like ridiculous stuff about like supporting like outer rim planets, but like at the same time, just the energy he brings still makes it feel comedic. But I know it's like, did Doc Brown need to be this character? Like, you know what I mean?
For what's going on, I didn't mind it because I love Christopher Lloyd. Like
Yes.
I haven't seen him do anything bad. So I mean, it's just weird seeing him as basically a pseudo villain for this episode.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a little weird, but again, with his ideals, his ideology of how he thinks the world should be, it makes sense the way he did things and why he went the direction he did. But I didn't mind it. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, yeah, and that's my thing, right? It's like not so much that it bothers me, like, and I enjoyed him and I enjoyed seeing him. It's just like I feel like everyone was really gassed up for his appearance and his cameo, and it didn't feel like it was really that grand. You know what I mean? Like, is this a character that has like lasting implications, especially considering that he had a nice little resolution in the episode, right? Like they made peace, and then he got sent to jail or he got exiled to the moon of that planet. So I don't know if it was necessary for him to play that character. I wouldn't say wasted. I would just say like it was neither here nor there for me, other than kind of the fanboy in me.
Could have been a better character for him to play.
Yes, actually, yeah. So that's the best way to put it. So I'd say I'm kind of ambivalent to his role, but I like that he was in the show. And as we kind of close out, let's talk about the main. Oh, also, I really like that Grogu got knighted, and then Bo
Yeah.
and Grogu got knighted. Bo and Din got the key to the planet, I guess.
He is now Sir Grogu, the Mandalorian Jedi, the first.
And what was so now let's talk about the last part of the episode. This is where things get big. What do we feel about Bo-Katan's showdown?
Travis, you start again.
It was a very nice action scene. I'll start with that. Like that was pretty sweet in my opinion. It was.
Oh, did he freeze again?
Yeah,
It was a nice fast, at least a little. Yeah, I don't know. I freezing. I don't know if it's my internet or not, but going back to the whole battle, I think it was executed pretty well. It would have been nice to kind of see it go on a little longer, but I think for what it was totally fine. And then the whole at the very end, I don't know if it was a dagger or a knife or whatever she was holding at his throat. I was like, well, then that escalated quickly. I didn't know we were fighting to the death, but okay. But I think she made her point very valid,
Yeah.
and then absolutely. And then no spoilers yet, Andy. I know you're getting there.
No, you're good.
And then at the very end, he still didn't really want to believe that, she was there and she was the one meant to lead the fleet. And then Din did the thing that he did, made the comments that he made.
I think you can,
basically
Travis. I think
made
you
her.
can. I think cat's out of the bag now. You can talk about that.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
worry.
Think we can talk about it. All right. So, for those of you that have seen the episode, towards the end, after the whole fight scene, Bo-Katan still, for whatever reason, didn't really see her as their leader, and I believe they've been.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, they still didn't see her as the
So
leader.
they go on the bill about how Din got captured and he got defeated, and Bo-Katan defeated his captor, which then would have gave her the right to have the Darksaber. So Din gave her the Darksaber, and uh, at the end, this is the way, and away we
This
go.
is the way. Yeah, Austin, was it you who made that theory a while back, or who made that observation a while back? Like, you were someone I feel like was like, man, I'm surprised she didn't get the Darksaber after defeating uh that like weird little like hostage taker, that weird little scavenger.
That honestly didn't even like cross my mind at all until
Right.
he brought that up. I was like, that would make sense, because I mean, granted, it's kind of mixed, but because like technically Din never actually fought that creature with the Darksaber. And he never, the thing actually never technically challenged him for the Darksaber. But at the same time, I think it's kind of creative, because you can kind of tell. I mean, it's been a useful enough weapon for when Din has been able to kind of use it. Obviously, he needed a lot more training. But I mean, when you see Bo use the Darksaber in the second episode, I mean, it's blatantly clear she's the more skilled between them with the saber. So it makes the most sense, because he doesn't want to lead the Mandalorians. Like, you can just tell he's just got that, whatever. He's just got that about him. He just wants to be a part of the Mandalorians. Like, he could be a leader to a degree, but not the leader of the Mandalorians. So,
well, and I think I think that's funny, because I did not think about that either for like a second, until the only thing I thought is like, it's interesting and cool that Bo-Katan didn't take the Darksaber from him. Like, that's legitimately all I thought. I didn't even think about the fact that like she kind of gets it by proxy,
It's a more logical way for her to get it, instead of like the last episode of season 2 where he's just like sitting there like trying to give it to her. She's like, no, I can't take it. We have to take it by battle. Oh, okay, I yield. Here, it's yours now. You could just tell like he doesn't really care about the Darksaber. He doesn't even really entirely care about like the lore behind the Darksaber. Again, you guys want to learn more about the Darksaber? Watch Clone Wars and Rebels. But
well, I mean, to be fair, it's kind of like how Din's signet, for his house or for his clan, is the Mudhorn, right? How he didn't challenge the Mudhorn with the intention of getting a signet for his clan, but like, it's like, well, you beat it, so you can claim it.
Yeah, and I mean, Grogu obviously helped them, so it makes sense too that he's got that little signet now underneath his
cloak.
What's that thing? Yeah, cloak, robe, whatever you want to call it, I guess. But I like the Mudhorn look. I think it's a cool little emblem. I can willingly say I like it more than the Mythosaur one, because for years as a Star Wars fan, I never knew what it was.
Oh yeah.
I just assumed it was just the logo of the Mandalorians. Why they picked that, I didn't know. But then getting into this, found out more about it. So
I do think this was like the perfect, or I'll say, I think this is probably the best way to handle it without like, I think this was the best way to go about it, because then you don't have to put Din in an awkward position where he gets his can kicked by someone else or Bo-Katan, but you also don't have to have Bo-Katan show any hostility or animosity towards anyone. So I thought this was, and I think it was interesting because it goes back to, is it Rebels where she gets the Darksaber handed to her, or is it Clone? Okay. I think it goes back in an interesting way to Rebels, right, where she just gets handed the Darksaber. and then that kind of leads to their downfall. But now it's like she's getting it handed to her again, but there's like actually a good reason. Like she actually defeated someone to get it. This is just like now it's being relinquished. I thought that was a great way to do it without like unnecessary conflict.
I mean, it's the best way to handle it to get it back in her hands personally at this point in the story.
And especially if they don't ever plan on those two actually like going at it, especially the way this season's going. I would agree with the both of you. That's definitely the best way to handle it.
I think I also like that Wobes brings up kind of that he will not or doesn't respect Din because he doesn't have any Mandalorian blood in him. So I wonder if we're going to get to explore that more next episode when I'm guessing that they're all going to meet the armorer and the clan and everything.
Yeah, well, because now, I mean, not to spoil any of the announcements from Celebration, but a lot of my theories, I think, now have kind of been pretty heavily shut down. So, like all the things I thought were actually going to happen later on in the series or the season with the Darksaber, I don't think it's going to happen. But you never know; could still happen. So, yeah, I'm not sure, man. Like right now, again, like it's like we've been saying for the last few weeks. Now we've seen everything that was in the trailer when we first got it.
Yep.
I mean, the rest of the season is just a mystery. Like, what's gonna happen now? But from what I've seen online, because people at Celebration, they got to watch episode 7 with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and rumor is this upcoming episode for us next week is mind blowing.
Okay.
That's just the word I've been hearing the most of is mind blowing. So don't know if we're getting a cameo, big battle, big revelation, what we're exactly getting. I don't know yet.
I mean, the previous two seasons have done like a part 1, part 2 for their finale. So I think that's what we're getting here. Is whatever happens. I think we're finally going to discover our big bad, like who attacked Bo-Katan, and if Elia Kane is involved at all. If there's any like insurgency about to happen, like on Coruscant. I feel like there's a lot and then what did happen to Moff Gideon. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff. And if Wobes is straight up going to betray him or something, I don't know. Like, this also goes back to what you were saying about the armor, right? Of whether she is like potentially going to vie for power or something like that. Or if we're even going to actually see Mandalore reclaimed by the end of this season.
I don't know. It's just a huge mystery at this point.
So, Travis, do you have any closing thoughts before we go into our rating? And Austin, I open that floor up to you as well.
Okay.
Overall, like I said, I'm very surprised that this episode is rated as low as it was, and I believe Austin said the rating was on Rotten Tomatoes. Am I correct on that?
I don't really know what the rating system is on, to be honest with you, but I've just seen what people have mostly been rating this episode.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I was very surprised, just like I think both of you, that it was rated as low as it was. But I have mixed feelings on the whole fleet and where that's going to go, because like at before the beginning of this season, like I said, I thought that there was going to be a confrontation between Din and Bo-Katan. Now my thoughts are shifting to there is going to be a confrontation between Wolves, right? I know I'm saying that wrong, but between Wolves and Bo-Katan. I can almost sense that, because if they want to be mercenaries and they want to do what they've been doing, I don't think they're going to want to join the rest of the Mandalorians. My personal opinion. We'll see where things go, but I personally don't see them actually doing that. I think if anything, it's just going to be a play, and there's going to be something that unfolds outside of that. And like I said before, I really, really hope we get to come back to this planet again, whether it's later this season, if there's a 4th season. I think it was pretty cool. But I'm also curious to see what happens with the rest of the Mandalorian clan that's on Navarro right now. You know,
Yeah.
do we actually get to go back to Mandalore? Do we, settle in Navarro and make that our home? What does that
Oh
look
yeah.
like? So I'm anxious to see what happens, and especially if this next episode is mind blowing. I'm ready.
Man. Austin, closing thoughts?
I think Bo and Din are going to get married, and they're going to have a beautiful little Mandalorian child.
They already have a beautiful Mandalorian child. His name is
Named Grogu.
Fair enough. No, honestly, Travis pretty much covered most of it. Like, I want to know what's going to happen. I mean, again, for a lot of people, and I see their point, this kind of is to a degree a filler episode because, we're supposed to be seeing basically the last 10 minutes of the episode is what we thought the whole episode was going to be, is just them finding the Mandalorians, maybe going on a little adventure with them or something. I don't know, but
you know what? That is a fair, as dumb as it is, that's a fair point, is that this is in essence a filler episode, like except for the first like 3 minutes and then the last like 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, because no other episode's really been like filler. Everything's been very intentional up until this point.
See,
And I would agree.
Which is weird because I really like this episode, but this essentially is just very similar to the Dr. Pershing episode. Like the first 10 minutes is just Bo and Mando doing their thing, and then the final 10 minutes is them back at them. And the middle section is all Dr. Pershing, and that's what I felt about that episode. It was more filler than anything.
To be fair, that episode, I think that's episode 3, chapter, what is that now? Chapter 18? Yeah, chapter 19. Chapter 19.
19, yep.
I feel like that episode still doesn't count as like filler to me because it has implications for like whatever's going on in the Republic and with the Empire. Because you have Dr. Pershing, like you see, because without that episode, we wouldn't really have the baseline for Jack Black's character like being there, right? Because it's clear that we are seeing more like re-educated or reinstated like Imperial people out in the outer systems and everything. So we're outer rim planets. So I think that episode 3 helps set that up, and that we might encounter more former Imperials.
I mean, like I've said too, obviously the further along we get in the series, mine might change on some episodes. I mean, obviously the episode 4 that we did with AJ, I wasn't entirely big on it. The more and more we're going along though this season.
Yeah.
Because you bring up lots of good points, so I'm coming around.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. This should make you happy. But I am coming around to that, Dr. Pershing episode. I wasn't all too big into it, but after, like hearing your thoughts and stuff, I kind of think about it a little more. And obviously when I go back and rewatch it, those thoughts will be in my head. So I'll have a different opinion about what I'm seeing. And I feel like that's how this episode will be too. Again, I liked it for what it was. Again, I like the buddy cop duo with Bo and Din. I liked seeing all the great actors we got here. Jack Black, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Lizzo was okay. Just okay to me. She wasn't great by any means, but I mean.
Well.
Fun.
Please continue.
Fun is the episode. Fun is the episode I would use for this name. Wow. Fun is the term I would use for this episode. It's like Solo. Like, that's how I feel about Solo. Like, is it a Star Wars movie we needed? No, I didn't need to know how Han Solo got his last name of Solo. Like, but it's a fun Star Wars movie to watch. And that's why I like this episode so much.
You know what just occurred to me?
Oh, boy.
Oh, no. Actually, 2 things. One, it helps establish another allied planet for the Mandalorians, so it kind of expands their network, you know what I mean? So they could have like a Mandalorian enclave or like a Mandalorian hold on this planet as well as Navarro.
Maybe they recruit the battle droids.
That's what. So that's what I was going to say. Is one, they might be able to recruit and request like reprogrammed battle droids, but two, IG-11 still needs a new memory card or memory board or whatever. So they might potentially circle back around to this planet, like and like rebuilding IG-11 because we have not followed up on that since episode 1.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't I thought they would have like discussed that in this episode, but there's still time, and I think that that's going to come back like soon.
Yeah, it's like they brought R5 in and just completely ignored the whole IG-11 story that they had in here.
So I think that's intentional. I think they're setting that up with this episode as well.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right, guys. So the last thing. Well, I've got 2 ratings I'm going to ask for. And so I'm going to start by asking if you had to give this score a 1 out of 10. If you had to rate the score out of 10, there we go. If you had to rate the score out of 10, what would y'all give it? Travis, I'm putting you on the hot spot. What would you give this episode out of 10?
Oh, the problem is I don't want to go too high. I don't want to go too low. I would say, out of fairness with everything that we've seen so far, I would probably say maybe like 7.5 at the highest.
Austin, all right, 7.5. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would say pretty solid 7.5, maybe a very light, soft 8. Honestly.
Oh boy. Once again, my opinion might change after I rewatch. I think I'm going to give this episode an 8.5. And that's, yeah, I'm giving this episode an 8.5. I really like what Bryce Dallas Howard has done with each of her episodes. And I feel like this had some very interesting dynamics for Bo, Din, and the Mandalorians we encounter. And I did enjoy Jack Black, Lizzo, and Doc Brown.
Oh, actually, Andy, before we close, I guess I don't know if a little nugget that I noticed in the episode too.
Come on with it.
On Jack Black's whatever shirt, we'll just say.
Yeah.
On the right side, he had the K for that place that Elia Kane is currently at.
Oh, for the reintegration.
Yeah, he has the K on there, so I don't know if that means like either he's working with them, maybe he obviously went through it since again he used to be an Imperial, but I just didn't know if you guys noticed the little pin on him or not.
No. I mean, he mentions that he was part of that program, that he got reintegrated. But dude, that is good. Eagle eye right there, Austin. Wow, I did not catch that. I love attention to detail, man. That is wonderful. Okay.
That's why my last name is Bird.
There. Austin Eagle Eye Bird. I love that. Dude, that's a good catch. Oh my god. Okay,
I will say I did notice the pin. I didn't notice the K, but I did notice, unless that's what I noticed. I don't know, but the
good catch. Wow, it's just me then.
I guess you'll have to go back and rewatch the episode again.
I was planning on it, but yeah, now there's a bit of a precedent. So now I'm going to ask for one last ranking for y'all. So if you had to if you had to rank all 3 Bryce Dallas Howard episodes, how would you rank them? There's only 3. So you got Sanctuary, you've got The Heiress, and then you've got this one. Oh gosh, Guns for Hire. How would y'all rank all 3? And why?
Oh boy. Honestly, from least favorite to favorite, I would probably go reverse order. I would say this episode, The Heiress, that'll go back and forth between Guns for Hire, but I love what she did with the Sanctuary because I think we talked about it last week, Andy, how, I got those huge Jurassic Park vibes when the ATST came through the forest and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that whole little thing because I think you brought up too. It's like watching like an old school like samurai movie because it's like a
Yeah.
siege on a little village and stuff. So, I mean, lots of things to like about that episode. But even if I had to rank like all the directors, she'd easily be top three. Easily
Okay.
top three.
Okay. Dang. Travis, what are you thinking and why?
That's very hard because I'm trying to remember the episode in the first season. Because it's been a very long time since I watched the first season.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, just because I can't remember the very first episode, so I'll just use the two that I remember the best. And I would say that I would probably put the one where she introduced Bo-Katan above this last episode that we just had.
Okay.
Just because I think that brought in a whole new dynamic, and we've seen how that's grown, and she's become a very big part of the series. You know, we kind of started off with just Mando, and then we added Grogu, and now we've got the trio with Bo-Katan, and I think she did a very good job with bringing her in. And obviously, there's, I don't know if her initial intentions were to bring her this far into the series, but she's a very key integral part of the series now, and I think it was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna place this episode last, so 3 out of 3. Not because it's bad, just because it didn't deliver as much or it didn't provide as much as I was hoping for with the previous 2 episodes, right? So I'm placing Guns for Hire at number 3. Number 2, I'm going to give to Sanctuary, just because it was a great episode. I don't know, I'll just leave it at that. It was a great episode. I agree with everything you said, Austin. And yeah, Travis, I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to put the second of her 3 episodes, The Heiress, at number 1. I think it's the first time we see Din have a legitimate kind of like conflict of faith, not crisis, right? But he's like kind of confronted with the fact that his clan is a bit cult-like, and like it's the first time we see encounter other Mandalorians outside of his faction. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give Bo-Katan's episode the first spot, Sanctuary the second spot, and then this episode the third spot. And with that, unless there are any final thoughts, y'all.
Nope. I think I got everything I wanted to say about the episode.
Well, thanks so much, Austin and Travis, and this concludes another episode of the Talkalorian Live. I'm Andy King of King's Comics, joined by Austin, my co-host and head man of the Midwest Cantina podcast, and our boy Travis. Austin, do you have anything coming up that you would like to talk about?
Actually, yes. Tonight, I have another podcast I'm doing. That's going to be at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I've got the guys from Let's Talk Movies podcast. I've got Brad and Miguel coming on.
Oh, wow.
And we are going to be talking about just Resident Evil in general. I've been on such a Resident Evil high for the last handful of weeks because Resident Evil 4 just dropped. So yeah, we'll be talking games, movies, I'm sure some other things in regards to the Resident Evil franchise, but I've got that tonight, again, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure you guys come check that out if you're a Resident Evil fan. Possible upcoming stream, maybe with Andy and maybe another guest if we can get it to go next Friday.
That's right. We have to talk about we have to talk about the Ahsoka trailer. I think we have some thoughts.
Yes, and just in general, I want to talk about Celebration, all the announcements we've got.
Yes.
Celebration. So, we'll hopefully work that in. We'll see if we figure it out. We'll obviously update you guys. We'll post our community posts and stuff like we normally do. But other than that, just the last couple episodes of the Talkalorian Live for the next few weeks. And yeah, that's... I do have one more thing. Sorry. Starting Monday, I have my Evil Dead review series that I am going to be doing with...
That's right.
with AJ Reacts 2. And also, I do believe it's still happening with my friend Kyle Flett from the Flett's Movies and Pop Culture 13 channel. So Monday will be Evil Dead 1981. And then Wednesday will be Evil Dead 2, followed by Army of Darkness Friday. Following week, Monday will be Evil Dead 2013. Wednesday will be Ash versus Evil Dead, the TV series.
Wow.
Followed by either Friday or Saturday. I will give you guys my spoiler-free review of the new Evil Dead Rise.
Very nice. Austin, that sounds like an awesome plan. And yeah, guys, just stay tuned. I've got some new comic reviews and reaction videos coming out soon. That being said, thanks so much for tuning in, y'all, and we'll be talking to you again real soon.